Welcome to the Built for Playmakers YouTube channel. I'm your host, Kelvin Hunt, editor of ChopChat.com. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome back to Built for Playmakers, man. Here, going to talk a little bit about the Southern Miss game. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on that, but mostly going to get into what I feel like a lot of people's overreactions to the Southern Miss game, as well as what other teams are doing, namely Miami and Duke and a little bit of Clemson. We'll kind of talk about that, but that's kind of what we're going to hit on in this show right here. It kind of goes back to if you go back in the summer and how when Florida got really hot on the trail in recruiting, and everybody in their mama was like, "Oh man, Florida's killing it. We suck and blah 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 blah." And if you follow me on Twitter, I was telling you then, I was like, look, just be patient. They're doing what they got to do because they know they're going to be terrible on the field. And they already have one commitment yesterday from that class. So, and they'll probably have more as the losses pile up. And of course, FSU went on their run. Look, MikeNorvell has a process and how he likes to do things. Everything's structured for the most part. These things are coordinated, whenever they want these guys to commit and all that good stuff, to build momentum and things like that. Before I forget, I forget way into the videos. If you could like this video, guys, we've been getting like 25, 30 likes, and we've been getting hundreds and even thousands of views on some of these videos. And I'm only getting like 25, 30 likes. If you could like this real quick and help me spread the content out to more FSU fans. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that. We've been bumping here lately. We're up at over 630 something, I think it was. So well on our way to 1,000 here. With about what we've been doing this about a month now here on the YouTube channel. So like, subscribe, and I would certainly appreciate the support. So of course FSU, went on their run, and obviously they got a top 6 class, I think it is, with 4 or 5 major targets remaining, and they'll be in good shape to land those guys as long as they continue to play well. And so, and you kind of see the same thing that's happened here since the games have been played. Now, Florida, Florida fans are now, they're still talking about recruiting because the games are getting played, and they've already lost one game and probably will lose this weekend. So they're going around spreading lies on social media talking about blue chip ratios and all that good stuff. And so that's funny in itself. But I've seen some FSU fans look at what Miami did over the weekend against Texas A&M, and they're like, well, Miami might be a problem or whatever. Listen, I'm just gonna tell you like this: Miami is an improved team. I mean, I said on the last video, they don't really have anywhere to go but up. I mean, because they were god awful last year, right? So, I mean, they should improve. It's Mario's second year down there. But, guys, Texas A&M is not a good team. They're not. They were 5-7 last year. They beat New Mexico State in week 1. And then, of course, because they're in the SEC, and media and whoever is going to give them a ranking, after one win against nobody, put them at number 23 or whatever it was. And what's crazy is Texas A&M turned the ball over 3 times and allowed a kickoff return for a touchdown, and still probably should have won that game. They could have put that game away early if Jimbo Fisher didn't do Jimbo and kick a field goal on 4th and 1 from the 14-yard line. They would have possibly gone up 14-0, and Miami might have quit, because that's what Miami does. But nope, kick the field goal like Jimbo does, and of course, then the wheels fall off because Texas A&M just isn't a good team. Guys, it's all about matchups. It's all about matchups. And like, for instance, a lot of people were talking about LSU would beat FSU. LSU is a betting favorite, blah, 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 blah. And I came here and told you I expected FSU to win because it's all about the matchups, right? So when you look at Miami, Miami still does not have a running game. They talk about the O-line's improved and all this and that. They still can't run the ball. And guess what? A lot of people are not going to run the ball against FSU regardless. So even if they had a running game, they're not going to be able to run the ball against FSU. And their pass pro has gotten better, but Texas A&M does not have a defensive line like FSU's. They don't have the penetrators. They don't have the depth. And Tyler Van Dyke is a statue back there. Look, would you if you asked me and you said, hey, would you rather face Jaden Daniels or Tyler Van Dyke, for the next 5 games, I would take Tyler Van Dyke every single time because where he's going to be. He's going to drop back in the pocket and he's going to stay there until he can find a receiver open or throw a 50-50 ball or whatever. And you don't have to worry about him, taking off like Jaden Daniels, or, you don't have to worry about, I talked about in one of the videos, over rushing your lanes or whatever and allowing Van Dyke to step up in the pocket. You don't have to worry about that. And just think about Adam Fuller against quarterbacks like Van Dyke. Phil Jerkovich mauled him. Boy, they mauled Van Dyke in 2021. I forgot how many times he got sacked by Jermaine Johnson and those guys, Keir Thomas. Same thing. Miami's secondary is suspect. Texas A&M does not have the playmakers that FSU has. They don't. Everybody talks about the talent that Texas A&M has. They have talent on paper, but that talent's not getting developed. And if you've been following me on Chop Chat for a while, those are a lot of the main things that I used to point out with Jimbo Fisher. And I wrote an article, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And if you go back from 2015 through 2017, you remember how Jimbo Fisher signed all these blue chip players, all these top classes. 53% of them didn't contribute anything whatsoever to the program. No meaningful snaps whatsoever. From 2015 to 2017, 53%, no meaningful snaps. Now, that's not the case at FSU now under MikeNorvell. Players going to get developed. Joshua Farmer, first commit in the MikeNorvell era, 3-star, 250-pound D lineman. Here we are a few years later, one of the top defensive tackles in the ACC, 300-pound mauler, right? Look at Jordan Travis, player development. Look at the transfers they brought in. Johnny Wilson. Now, Johnny Wilson had his drops the other night, but look, Johnny Wilson's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. Look at Micah Pittman before he came last year. Didn't do anything. Hurt all the time. Johnny Wilson's hurt a lot. Came to FSU, produced. Keir Thomas, hurt a lot at South Carolina. Came to FSU, produced. Jared Verse, come up from FCS, produced. Look at the freshmen getting on the field already. Player development. So when I look at Miami, they're a better team, but they don't match up well with FSU at all. Not worried about them. They'll probably score more than 3 points this year because FSU, they'll probably have some second or third stringers in there at some point, but not worried about Miami. Granted, they have a cupcake schedule. They have a cupcake schedule every year. I don't even know who they played in game 1. Miami, Ohio. They just beat a terrible Texas A&M team. They get ready to play Bethune-Cookman in week 3. Whatever. So I hope they come to Tally undefeated. I really do, because Clemson blew that shot for us to get a big time game in week 4 because they lost to Duke in week 1. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Miami right now. Miami fans are, they're walking around with their chest poked out and talking about their back and all of this stuff. And guys, they don't have the horses that we have on either side of the ball. They don't. And because they don't have the depth that we have, you'll probably see, by the time they come to Tally in November 11th, you'll probably see them starting to eat into their depth a little bit, for a little bit they have. So they can run those little freshmen out there they want to, some grown men on Florida State's team, and they'll show them what's up. Next, Duke. I see a lot of people talking about Duke or whatever, and I said it in my season predictions piece. Duke's a good team. They're well coached. Granted, Duke didn't beat anybody last year. They beat 2 teams with winning records, and them beating Clemson in week 1. I mean, yeah, nobody expected it. I didn't expect it either, but I think that game probably told you more about what Clemson isn't than what Duke is. I mean, Clemson turned the ball over 3 times. They didn't have a vertical attack. I mean, really, they had a field goal blocked. I think they missed a field goal. So it was just one of those games. And Clemson looked bad against Charleston Southern. I mean, they were losing against Charleston Southern in the second quarter. I mean, so Duke just played whoever, Lafayette or whoever, they beat in week 2. But again, they haven't beat anyone yet. Again, Duke's well coached. They're a decent team, but again, they don't have the horses that FSU has. Now, unless FSU just goes out there and turns the ball over 3 times or something like that, I don't see it. And not only that, they just don't have they don't have the depth in the trenches. They don't have the players. They don't have the players at skill position. Ryder Leonard is like I said, he's a knockoff Jordan Travis. So Jordan Travis light. I don't think he's better than Jaden Daniels as far as just killing you with his legs. Now he'll scramble around and stuff, but he's not as dangerous, I don't think, as Jaden Daniels is. And Duke does not have the skill players at wide receiver that LSU has. So I'm not worried about Duke. Not worried about Duke. Never lost to Duke. I don't think this is going to be the year either. I mean, think about it too. You remember how when Duke played against FSU in the ACC championship game in 2013? That was a good Duke team. Good Duke team. I went to that game in Charlotte, about froze to death. And, it was close for a quarter. And then you just gradually saw FSU overwhelm Duke. And I think that's probably that's a good depiction of what's going to happen whenever they match up here in a few weeks. Then Clemson. That game getting moved to 12 o'clock kick. I see a lot of people were mad or whatever. I'm cool with it. I mean, actually, my wife had planned some outing with some friends, and she wasn't really thinking about it. She kind of committed to it without really thinking about it. And so I was like, wait. I was like, we're gonna do what? She was like, yeah, we're gonna go to this all-white gala thing or whatever, and I was like, what time? And, it's gonna be that night, right? I was like, bruh. Now this is before the season. I was like, bruh. I was like, man, the Clemson game gonna probably be a primetime game. I'm like, man, I gotta find a way to watch this game. So I hope you don't mind if I have my phone out or whatever. I'm gonna have to watch this game. Lo and behold, Clemson goes and loses to Duke. So now the game's at 12. I'm gonna get to watch the game. I'll get all my work done for chopchat.com, get all that content out there. Shoot, I could probably record instant reaction after we give them that L and have time to go to the gala, hang out all night, have some drinks, celebrate, whatever. But it's not a negative to not have that game at night. I mean, I think Clemson plays FAU this weekend. That's a game they should win, you would think. And look, they're probably going to work some kinks out. Can they fall off a cliff that fast? I mean, is it possible? I mean, I guess it is. I mean, there's a lot of signs. There's a lot of signs that I saw with Jimbo that I'm seeing with Dabo Swinney right now. All the defensive talk, and when I say defensive, I mean like Dabo defending them, his methods, and not using the transfer portal, and I've everything that I've done, has got me to this point. So why wouldn't I trust myself? All that stuff, Jimbo's, try to throw your credentials out there. All that stuff we saw with Jimbo, we're seeing with Dabo. But Clemson, I think they missed so far on this quarterback, Cade Klubnik. That was the thing that kept Clemson afloat. That's what allowed Clemson to be Clemson whenever FSU, fell off and wasn't serious about football anymore. Going from Taj Boyd to Deshaun Watson to Trevor Lawrence. I mean, there's three of the best three quarterbacks Clemson's ever had back to back to back, aside from that one year where they had Kelly Bryant or whatever. But that carried Clemson. And so now you saw, with DJ Ungole and Cade Klubnik here, when Dabo doesn't have a quarterback, kind of like Jimbo, when you don't have a top-tier quarterback, kind of fall back down to mediocrity. Now, they got some players. They got some guys on defense or whatever, but I don't think Clemson's going to be able to hold up. So having that game at noon, you don't have the fans in there to be drinking all day and getting riled up and just making it a more hostile environment than it already is. I just like that game better at 12, opposed to a primetime game for FSU. I think that's an advantage FSU. Not that they necessarily need that advantage, because, as I said before, they went up there in 2021 with a lesser team and arguably should have won that game. They had that game won. So, as I said before the season started, I had FSU beating Clemson at a higher percentage than I did LSU because of the quarterback play, new OC, and Clemson lost a lot of guys off that defense last year. So I was more confident in beating Clemson before the season, and now my confidence is even higher. So. Look, FSU has a really good team, man. And a lot of people nitpicking the Southern Mississippi game. I mean, there was some things in that game that I didn't really necessarily care for. I mentioned it before. A lot of it seemed like it was some, backyard football type stuff, just running around making a play. I wasn't really upset with Norvell going for it on 4th down and things like that. I mean, it was, aside from one of them, I think all of them were like 4th and 3, 4 or less. So. I mean, those are realistic, and defense played lights out. But again, it goes back to what I said in the preseason, how everybody kept saying that the success of this team rides on the defense, and I'm like the only one out there saying that's not the case, right? So the defense has been the most consistent part of this team over the first 2 games. They started out a little shaky against LSU, but still only gave up 17 points with the starters in there. Against Southern Miss, they were lights out. I think Southern Miss made like 2-3 plays against them, and other than that, defense has been lights out. But we've seen, the offense kind of struggle here and there. Some of it was against LSU. It was. You just got a talented team you're going against, and then against Southern Miss, I think most of the issues were that the FSU was treating that game like a scrimmage. I mean, Mike was calling plays, or Jordan Travis was making decisions that I just don't think he would have made had they been playing a more comparable opponent, so to speak. I mean, they were chunking the ball downfield, 3rd and 10, 4th and 10. There's like jump balls, and Jordan Travis didn't have his best day either. Obviously the drops didn't help, but yeah, I just think that game was more so just them tinkering, trying to do different things, trying to get, and obviously you got a lot of different players in there that are not normally in there at the beginning of games, so you don't have that continuity, and you don't have the same number of reps in practice that you do with your receivers like Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman and things like that. So look, last year we heard people whine and complain, about FSU, not being able to run the ball against NC State, right? And then what happens? They go out there and run for 200 yards for like 5 or 6 straight games in a row. Look, MikeNorvell and the staff, I mean, they are well aware of what the weaknesses of the team are, what the strengths of the team are, and they're gonna plan accordingly to the to the opponent. There's some of the best game planners out there. Going back to, like I said, against LSU, everybody talking about Harold Perkins this, Harold Perkins that, and it was like he wasn't even out there because they're excellent game planners. So I'm curious to see what winds up happening with the Boston College game. I wrote an article on Chop Chat earlier today. It looks like that that storm is going to weaken, but at the same time, the tropical storm force winds will expand. Of course, there's going to be a lot of rain, so it just depends on if it kind of continues that northerly track, or if it goes more east. If it goes east, then that's better for the game. If it goes, teeters to the west, obviously that's worse. But if they play the game at 12, it's probably going to be an ugly, sloppy, wet game, which is fine for FSU. They can run the ball. Boston College, they got a quarterback in Thomas Castellanos, who, he basically is a receiver playing quarterback. I mean, he can throw here and there, but with the winds being what they will be, probably that'll be out of the question for him. So, as I mentioned earlier, FSU's defensive line, their front is ferocious, and you're not going to have a lot of success running against them. So, whether it's rain, sloppy, windy, whatever, probably be a bit low scoring game. I think that's reflective in the points total for bettors. I think it's 48 last I looked. So you're looking at probably a grinded out on the ground, lower scoring game. But then too, wet balls and wet turf can cause more fumbles and things like that can impact the game. One thing I'm kind of not worried about, but I'm just hopeful that the field isn't in such terrible condition that guys just fall and slip and just get hurt, just on some dumb stuff out there playing on a bad surface. So that's something to keep in mind too. But hopefully, they'll get to play this game, or I don't know if they may move it to later, because it looks like if you were looking at where Boston College is, the storm is going to be literally parallel with Boston College at kickoff time at 12 noon. So, we'll see what happens. But either way, FSU should be in good shape, get this dub if they play the game, and then go on and take care of business against Clemson. But make sure, again, you like this video, man. Subscribe if you haven't. Certainly appreciate the support. Just wanted to kind of get some thoughts out there with the uncertainty of the Boston College game at this point. I mean, nobody said it's going to be canceled or anything, but you just never know when these storms happen and things like that. But just wanted to kind of put that out there for some FSU fans or even Miami fans that may be overconfident. Guys, look, you don't have it. You don't have it. The matchup is not in your favor this year, so FSU fans, do your homework. Don't just read the rankings or just look at the score of the games, and who Miami's playing and things like that. Just you got to go a little more in depth to see what's really real. So again, I expect FSU to continue to roll as I predicted in the preseason, and we'll see what happens this weekend against Boston College. But again, appreciate the support. Like the video and subscribe. And until next time, go Noles.